Welcome to New Business in Later Life, where we prove that it's never too late to pursue your entrepreneurial dreams. You will meet remarkable individuals who launch successful businesses over 50, sharing their stories, challenges, and enthusiasm. Your host, Ildiko, is a former social housing professional, textile designer, and teacher who described herself as a life artist. She is now a property professional, business network host, and facilitator of the Entrepreneurs Club. Subscribe now to hear these inspiring stories every week.
Today's guest proves that it's never too late to change course. Sally made a bold career switch from teacher to property investor, which not only brought her new confidence and clarity, but a new life by the coast. What is her mantra? If I can do it, anyone can. Now she's using her personal and business experiences to guide others who feel stuck or unsure about their business journey. Her mentoring style is honest, open, and full of encouragement, of which I have first-hand experience. So today, let's hear it from Sally. Hi Sally, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Awesome. I'll jump straight in. Could you please tell us what is your most recent business?
My most recent business is a business where I help business owners to thrive and survive and grow their business. Maybe not in that order, maybe survive, thrive and grow their business.
Cool. Share with us, please, how old you were when you set up this new business.
So this business, I was 62 when I set up
62 young, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So would you like to go a little bit more into detail, a little bit more about what this business is about?
If I go back to when I first set up my first business, which again, I was over 50. My husband had been made redundant. I was a teacher. My husband had been made redundant. He, with no payoff or anything, he needed to have an income. And we decided to go into property, and I supported him in the property business.
Right,
Started
okay.
off a property business. I was 52 at the time.
So at this time you kept your teacher's job?
Yeah, I was just trying to think. Actually, no, I was older than that. Kept my
Somewhere
teacher's
around
job.
there.
Somewhere around that. Yeah, 55 at the time. I kept my teacher's job.
Right.
And so I was still working full-time as a teacher, and I was supporting him. And the reason I supported him was because I'd been an estate agent for about 10 years previously.
Okay. Is that prior to becoming a teacher?
Right.
Okay.
Well, I did teaching. I taught for 11 years, had a 10-year break, and then went back
I see.
for another 15 years. So in between. So I felt I had a bit of knowledge about property. And he also needed the support. He needed the push behind him. He needed the knowledge to know that he could do it.
Was the redundancy, if we can call it a redundancy, quite trying on him mentally and spiritually?
Yes, absolutely. Because we had no notice of it and there was no payoff or anything. And he decided that he was not going to go into the corporate world again. He wanted to do something on his own, spent a few years trying to work out what to do, and then we stumbled across property. Right, so that was what we decided. So my role was actually to support him. I then was able, through property, to go part-time and then to actually give up teaching completely. But that's where the business started, because property is a business. Property is the vehicle of a business. So then got the business knowledge and the business acumen, etc. And I'd also been in the leadership model role as a teacher. So I'd had that sort of part there. So then it's just developed from there with regard to then I started helping people to get into property, and when they're in property to grow their business, and then realise that actually, as I've just said, property is the vehicle. So I can do this for any business person.
Yes.
Having set up 4 businesses through ourselves, through property, and that's.
Was it? You mean the different property strategies?
Yeah, and with different people, having business partners, etc. Actually exiting from a business as well,
Yeah,
property
all
business.
of these are teaching you loads of things.
Absolutely, which then means that I can start up the business that I'm doing now, as well as my property business.
So obviously, partially being a teacher would give you that sort of background of teaching people.
Absolutely.
Or do you see it as teaching people or guiding people?
It's more guiding It's more enabling them to actually be able to do what they want. So I see myself as an enabler.
Okay, that's a really nice way of putting it.
Because what I'm doing is giving them the confidence and the ability to actually grow their business.
So just a little step back still.
Yeah.
It's kind of curious, like if you've got your teaching and your experience, how much or sort of in what proportion do you think you're using your teaching skills and your experience, like life experience skills in the business in your coaching?
All day, every day.
But kind of roughly equal amounts or?
Probably equal amounts. But the teaching skills is not about imparting knowledge. It's more about understanding the people and understanding their needs and thinking about and understanding how they need to learn, how they need where they are, in their business, in their life, in their knowledge, in their confidence in themselves, in where they want to get to, and how I can enable them to do it.
Do you have a special talent to recognize people's different kinds of needs?
Yes, it's something I've developed over the years. I also I have a psychometric analysis test that I do with people.
Okay.
Which I've done, and that really helps me. It helps me to understand how they think, how they understand things. I use that as a tool to understand them, but it's really my experience of dealing with not just students but parents, people, my peers, my colleagues, and everything, at all different levels over the years.
Yeah. What sort of age group did you teach?
So I taught primary school.
Oh, wow. So little kids.
So little kids. But we've all got the same sort of needs. We've all got the same kind of feelings, desires, emotions, etc. It's just on a different level.
We want to be seen, whether we are 3 or 33 or 53.
Exactly.
We want to be seen, we want to be heard.
Exactly.
I suppose, yeah. So as long as you kind of feed that basic need in people.
Yeah. And I was responsible for the last 10 years of my teaching career for children with special educational needs.
I see.
And disabilities. So that also involved behaviour as well as disabilities, etc. So I've had to deal with people from very different, understanding the world in very different ways, apart from just being, the teacher. And then also, of course, dealing with the parents who have an understanding of the world in very different ways.
Yes, indeed.
And that's all helped with the experience and my skill, to build my skill as to how to deal with people, how to approach things, how to phrase things, how to enable them, how to encourage them.
Yes. Do you think that the coaching, because obviously, as I said, you run a property business and now you do coaching, although you're still in property as well.
Yes.
Do you think you naturally went into coaching because you had the teaching background, or is this something, do you consider the coaching quite different to the teaching?
I think it's a natural progression. It's a natural progression, not necessarily for all teachers. It's about the person themselves. I see that all my life I've tried to make a difference. In everything I do, I try to make a difference. I'm quite good at and always have been, and this is part of my personality profile. I'm quite good at resolving conflict, at seeing both sides of things, of being able to smooth the waters. Hence, that's why I did what I did as a teacher with regard to the special educational needs, and how I got to be a management level, a leadership level, because it's about dealing with different people, because obviously it's not just students then, it's the staff as well. And, the stakeholders and all that sort of thing. And I think I've always been a people pleaser and kind of looking to see how can I help this person? How can I make a difference for this person?
That's a really beautiful trait. The way you put it, it's wonderful.
Yeah.
Because, when you say people pleaser, then what went off in my head was kind of this alarm bell, like, oh my goodness, are you prioritizing everybody by yourself? Which kind of is what I'm trying to show people, to prioritize themselves. But you put it really beautifully, that it's all really coming down to making a difference in the world,
Yes.
a kind of people pleasing.
Yes.
They actually end up a better themselves.
Yes.
Kind
It's
of people pleasing.
Yeah, it's interesting because people, when you say a people pleaser, people do see it from a negative point of view. You know, as in sometimes, you know, oh, well, you'll just do anything then, won't you? You know, but it's not. It's about understanding what the person needs.
Yeah.
Not necessarily what they want, but what they need. And then it's about what I need. You know, what satisfies me. And it satisfies me to actually be helping some people. And once I realised that whole thing, my whole life, that's what I've done.
Yeah.
Without knowing it.
It's interesting analysis to that concept, isn't it? That when we think that people who volunteer or you do things for charity, you're doing it to do good in the world. But at the end of the day, everything is a two-way street. And every bit of good deed we ever do pleases us as well.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
the energy exchanges there and back, doesn't it?
Absolutely. So I see that as a skill. I see that as a plus. I see that as you know, my role in life, should we say.
Oh, that's so lovely.
It's quite nice, isn't it? Yeah.
It is.
It's interesting because you use the word coach, which is kind of what I am, but I never use the word coach.
Remind me what you call yourself.
So I just say I help people
to
enable.
Enabler. Yeah.
Yeah. The reason I don't use the word coach is people have, again, preconceived ideas about what a coach is, what a coach is going to do.
Yes, and funny enough, I had this conversation with another interviewee, Chris, who was in episode 3 of this podcast, and he's a leadership coach. And for the first time ever, because coaching and mentoring is always in the same sentence.
Yeah.
And, you know, being foreign, I kind of learned the meaning as I went along, but never realized that there's a fundamental underlying difference between coaching and mentoring.
Absolutely.
And I had the pleasure of having a little crash course on the difference between coaching and mentoring from Chris, which was really quite wonderful.
Absolutely.
And he equally enjoyed, funny enough, the exchange of energies.
Yes.
He equally enjoyed explaining it and being enabled to explain that to the audience.
Yeah.
What the difference is and how he puts forward his teaching.
Yeah. Like everything comes back to, where do you get your initial understanding of something? And most people's initial understanding of a coach is in sport of some sort.
Yeah, that's true.
But actually, although they're called coaches, they're actually mentors.
And you're absolutely right, because they show
expertise of how to do
things.
Yeah, and they're showing them, and the students are copying them.
Yes.
Yeah, but actually, so they're mentors, because a coach is an enabler. A coach is actually getting it from you, what you can do. Yeah. And they don't need to be an expert in that field. It's about what's inside you.
Yes. And to
bringing that out.
Enable you to dig it out from the depth of your thoughts, your heart, your soul, what you actually want to do, and even figure out how to do it.
Which is why I use the word enabler, you see.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really quite like these sort of in-depth analysis of the differences, because I'm stepping onto this path now as well.
Yeah.
So this is hugely educational for me as well, and hopefully some of our listeners as well.
Yeah, so. I mean, and a trainer is a different thing again, because a trainer is literally standing there and teaching you, training you on what you do,
to do, giving you a legit to-do list, tick list, and actual tasks. Yeah.
And I hope that Chris, when he did the podcast, explained to you that actually you learn a lot more through, I'm going to use the word coaching, enabling, than you do through mentoring.
It's a different kind of learning, and we did discuss it. It's just a different kind of learning, but bearing in mind that we tend to forget, I can't remember the percentage, we forget a certain, quite large percentage of whatever we get taught. Let's say we go on a training day.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you really struggle to recall. I mean, just yesterday I was at training day, and then I was filling in. I am always very keen on filling in the feedback form. And what was your main takeaway? I actually had to look through my notes, because at that point my mind was just this big jumble.
Absolutely.
And of course, in the coming days, I will remember things. But when you get coached, as we kind of putting it into speech marks now in a way, But in that meaning, you have to think. And when you are digging out that knowledge from your own mind and from your own knowledge base, then of course you just refresh something that you already know.
Yeah.
And then you will probably remember a lot more.
Yeah. So we kind of go through three phases in a way, because we're trained, because we're taught what it's about. We are then kind of mentored, because then it's somebody almost holding our hand to do it. And you can be mentored and coached at the same time, but then your coach then actually enables you to do it.
I don't necessarily want to spend a whole
No.
session referring back to Chris, but funny, since you mentioned it, he did actually say something quite interesting, whether it was in the interview or after, I think it was afterwards, just to me, that as a coach, if you want to remain a coach, you have to be really careful not to slip down onto the mentoring side. Well, not down, actually, just over to the mentoring side. Because once you give people that piece of information that this is how you do it, then people always expect it. So I think that's probably the greatest strength a coach needs to have. So what's your take on that?
So I totally agree. So what you have to do is you can start as by mentoring them, because then you're giving them the expertise, the knowledge. But when you slip into then the coaching, and you can coach them at the same time, because you're then bringing the inner self out. But as soon as you start to go over into more coaching than mentoring, you have to make sure that you carry on at that pace and increase rather than going back.
If you start with coaching, because this example was more like you're giving people the skills to do. Yes. But what he was sort of saying is that you start coaching somebody, if you then slip into mentoring, then that's it. You can't go back to coaching. So yeah, it's a really interesting bit of kind of industry insight. Indeed.
Yeah.
Do you have a mentor or a role model, a coach or mentor?
Everyone should have someone that they follow, and I mean, I have a coach myself. So yes, in the fact there's been lots of people over the years, because as things as I myself have developed, then the person I follow changes, because it's about who they are.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. As we're going up our own ramp, we do change immensely.
Yeah, because then I'm looking for what I need at this moment in time and who I resonate with. It's also the thing about you've got to make sure that whoever you're looking up to, whoever you're following, is actually more experienced than you. I don't like
at least a little bit.
I don't like to use the word successful, because success is a very emotive word. But they've got to be. They've got to be higher up the tree, shall I say, in what you're looking to do than you are. They've got to have done it. They've got to have achieved that.
I've recently spoken to someone who showed me a little magazine article, that detailed that we have about 7 different coaches in our lives.
Yes.
And one of them could actually be our polar opposite, and it should be a polar opposite, which could be like, obviously we are now of the older generation. Yep. So we could look to a 20-something-year-old, because obviously they are growing up with the modern technology and can give us a completely different outlook on life.
Yep.
And they might not be, certainly not as life experienced as we are, but probably not as successful in terms of running a business or whatever, just for the sheer fact that they are that much younger and not had the number of years. But they could teach us all sorts of things.
Yeah, and it's interesting because my clients are all different ages. And I enjoy, again, working with all different ages, all different clients, because the younger ones actually teach me things, or I actually learn from them. Well, all of them I learn something from, really. Yeah, all of them I do. So it is a bit of a two-way thing. I'm the facilitator, I'm the enabler, but there's things that I'm learning from them, and I love the attitude to life, and they're because of their different education, because the different, what they've experienced in life being different. Technical world for a start.
Yes.
Growing up where you've always got an iPhone or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and the way they look at life in such a different way is brilliant, because that keeps me on my toes. It keeps me from, always having to think about, well, what's the perspective on this? How does this work? How as a young person, how do you think of that?
Yeah.
Rather than
So can you give us some actual examples of what your youngest
Right.
mentees have taught you?
I'm going to give you. So I'm going to give you an example. They're not actually my mentee, but I sat in a meeting. I'm on a governor of a local college.
Okay.
And we have student governors on this board.
Makes sense.
Yep. So for the higher education and for the further education. And it's really enlightening to hear their views for what we're talking about, because most of us are at least middle age, if not more.
Yeah.
Because of the nature of being on the board of governors, you've got to have some time to do it and all that sort of thing, right? So anyway, they were talking about what the college does is they do quite a lot of surveys to know what they need to do for the students. So
do they survey the students?
Survey the students,
okay,
to make sure that they're doing what the students want, right, in the right way. So what do you want? And what the student governors reported back was there were too many surveys. They were having too many surveys.
I was going to ask, do the students actually answer the surveys?
And they said, we appreciate why you do the surveys, because it's to get information.
Yeah.
To help them. They said, but can we suggest something? So we said, well, yeah, suggest.
That's what you're here for.
Instead of having everything on our phone, the surveys coming through online, like on our phone or on our laptop or whatever, can we have them on a piece of paper, please, for us to fill in? Now, you can imagine all of us older ones, our jaws dropped, because as far as we're concerned, this is what we did.
Yes.
Yeah, fill in surveys on a piece of paper. But that's not what the young people do these days, right? So
it's almost refreshing to hear that even younger people actually appreciate the difference between putting pen to paper.
Yep, absolutely.
I must admit that I kind of perceive that can young people even use a pen?
Yes.
I know it sounds really silly, but okay, I don't really have much sort of contact with school-aged kids or young adults, but it feels like the world is going that way, that do they actually know how to use a pen and a pencil and
absolutely
paper?
And of course they use it in schools and all the time, sort of like online on as I say, and they said so that we can just fill it in like while we're sitting having a coffee or just sitting having a chat or lunch or whatever. They said because we're really tired of having to do everything on a screen and it's and sort of filling it. That's what we do all day long. And on top of that, they said it's very easy to just scroll across or just go past that email or whatever. Mm. Whereas if you're given a piece of paper, it's quite nice to have it physically, and we get our pen out, and we were all absolutely aghast. Right? If we'd suggested that, it'd be like, what? No, I don't. Yeah. But that's what they asked for, and then they said. It's also really good to have information on leaflets if you just drop leaflets round. And again,
visual, isn't it? Well, and actually, let's go back. I mean, as teachers, we know that there's the visual, there's the audio, there's the kinesthetic, and there's the combined people. Every single person learns better, different way. And actually, probably all of us need all of these for it to completely sink in.
Absolutely.
But you know what this story made me think? How hypocritical are we?
Exactly.
for telling of sort of always referring to the youth that they're forever on their phone. Or so are adults. Come on, the other day I stood in a bus stop and there were about 6-7 people and every one of us were just like bent down over our phone.
Yeah.
And at the same time at school they are given absolutely everything to access on their phone. But that's actually really refreshing to hear. The youngsters equally recognize that screen time is detrimental to them. And can we just have a bit of a change and a bit of a difference?
Yeah. So that's really altered my thinking, because my thinking would always be everybody wants everything online, everybody, sent through to them and all that. And now I've thought, well, actually, maybe they don't.
I love note taking. Whenever I go to training events, I write loads, because then it's all of it. I can hear it, what I'm being told. I write it down, so it goes into muscle memory. Then I visualize it as well. And even though, as I mentioned, at the end of the day, I'm not going to remember all of it, but give it 2 weeks, 2 months, or whatever, even a year or two. I remember hearing about something at whatever training event it was, and then I go back to my folder and it's there.
Yep. And I'm going to add something else to that. So when you're rereading your notes, read them out loud.
Yeah.
Because when you hear it,
yes. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It goes in even more than when you're,
as if
rereading it, it goes back, it goes in even more.
Yeah.
But if you're hearing it as well and you're actually verbalizing it, it goes in even more.
You are so on the ball with that. That's my little private technique of my meditation, because whenever I talk to people about meditation, they say, oh, my mind trails away, I can't do it. I said, well, I used to be like that, but what I started doing to keep me in that space, in that headspace, is just repeat everything that I hear.
Yeah.
And then hearing my own voice keeps me present in the meditation practice.
Absolutely.
And it's something simple like that. And then it doesn't take me any longer than it would anyway.
Absolutely.
That's a lovely bit of advice for training as well. Thank you.
It also slows down how quickly you're reading, and make sure that you're reading it properly.
Yeah.
Because when we read, we don't read every word. And especially when we're reading something that we've written, because obviously
can't read your own writing.
No, because you know what it says. But if you're reading it aloud, it slows you down, and then you are reading every word. Or near, you're reading at a slower pace.
And you kind of realize your little stumbles, or the order of words doesn't actually come across quite right.
Yeah.
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 I love these little techniques. I do. Yeah.
So it's thinking, and you've got to think about it much more. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
there you go.
True. Because then your mind sort of carries on working on it and just refine it. Yeah. When you hear it back, it's like, oh, that's what the audience would hear.
Yeah, especially if you're like me and my writing is appalling. So when I read something back, I'm never quite sure what I've written. But if I read it out, if I say it out loud, I've really got to know, because it's like, oh, what is that word? Yeah, and then you get the context and all that sort of thing. Yeah.
To you, what is the most rewarding thing about being self-employed? Because
the empowerment. So we are responsible for every single penny we have that we earn, etc. We are not beholden to anyone else who can take that away from us. If we lose all our money tomorrow, it's our fault. It's what we haven't done. It's not somebody else who's then there saying, sorry, but we don't need you anymore. It's down to us. Yeah. Now, it works the other way, from the fact that we've got to make sure the money's coming in, but then that keeps you going. That's the power, the strength, the motivation to do it.
That's brilliant advice.
If you're going into self-employment, you've got to understand that it's a business. There's a lot of people that go into self-employment because they've been doing something for somebody else, and I'm going to put that money, that I'm not going to do that for somebody else. I'm going to put the money in my pocket, but don't, which is great. And that's a good motivation. But you have to understand, as soon as you do that, as soon as you come away from being employed, you then have a business.
Yeah.
And it's about having that business acumen, that business knowledge. And if you haven't got the business knowledge, knowing that you're going to need to know something. It's not as simple as I'm just going to go and do it for myself and put the money in my pocket, because you'll have Mr. Taxman after you, apart from anything else. But it's also about then knowing how do you use, what have you got to do? How do you do it correctly? But also, how are you going to grow? And how are you going to ensure that business continues, survives, thrives and grows?
Yeah, it is so hard to even comprehend that at the very beginning. Do you find among your mentees there are people who just sort of jump into it without having kind of not a lot or any knowledge of what running a business is like?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then they eventually end up with you or somebody else to mentor them?
Yes, they do. Once the realisation is oh goodness, I haven't got a clue what I've got to do, or this is getting out of control. It's often when they feel they've got chaos in their business. They have no idea what they're doing, what to do, they're literally going around like a headless chicken, as they say. So they're literally just jumping from one thing to the other, and they have no systems. And somebody then, often the tax man, wants some sort of record of what you've been doing, and they've got no idea where to even begin to do this, or whether they're doing the right thing. The equivalent of having the bag of receipts, or whatever that they've got to, or who they need to have in to help them with their business, and they're just working more hours than they ever did when they were employed.
Yeah, we sometimes joke with that, don't we? That you're swapping the 9 to 5 to 24/7.
Yes, exactly. But without knowing how to stop that, how to move on from that.
In your experience, what are the support networks that people need first in a business that's a sort of power team?
You need an accountant.
Do you find that people who come to get support from you at least have got an accountant? Are there people who even didn't get that far?
There's people who haven't even got that far.
Wow.
I don't know where oh really? Do I need an accountant? Can't I do it all myself? Yes, you can. But it's going to take you a lot longer. You're not necessarily going to get it right because you don't know the things that you can claim and that you can't claim, etc. And it's actually always in my experience, in the long run, better to actually have the expert do it. Which is going to save you time. In which case, you can carry on and do what you do best in your business.
You should be doing best, yeah.
Yes, exactly. Rather than sitting there agonising for hours over it. So, bookkeeper, accountant, or whatever, but accountant, yes, because there are things that there are so many businesses who are not claiming for. So it's costing you money.
Yeah, absolutely. When you don't have an accountant, nobody's going to tell you. Because, all the information is there on the gov.uk website. But who's got the time in their life to sift through all of that?
Exactly.
While an accountant, that's their job, isn't it?
Exactly. And that's one of the first things you need as an accountant. I mean, people say, oh, but that costs money. Yeah, but it costs you money not to have one.
Yeah, probably it costs more not to have one. So who would be the next person or team in a power team for a new business?
So it depends on your business after that. The accountant is definitely there. After that, it depends. Maybe your website, somebody who's going to own your website, that sort of thing, to build a website for you. It could be someone, if you're not into admin, it could be somebody who's going to do your admin, doing your invoices for you, that sort of thing, depending on what your business is. It then becomes business dependent after that as to what you are. Again, what is your skill? What can you do quite easily? And what do you struggle with?
Yeah.
So if you're struggling with doing the paperwork, even sending out invoices, because remember, invoices equals money. I had this conversation only this morning with one of my clients where they've actually they've got a business that's come in to work that they've they've bought our business, and the new business that's come in has only ever invoiced at the end of the month.
Okay.
And then the conversation is, but you can't do that. That's not what we do. And the reason we don't do it is because, one, it takes time. Two, you might forget some of the things that's on your invoice, because if you do some work for somebody today and you don't invoice until the end of the month,
will you remember that you've
will
done
you
a little
remember
bit of
what
work?
you've done and all the work that you've done? There's less comeback if there's a query over an invoice of any sorts. If it's something that you've done, if you invoice immediately, you'll remember that on both sides to have that constructive conversation. If it's the end of the month, by the time it's got to the end of the month, you as the business owner might have forgotten why that was there or what that was there.
Then also, what could be doing that to the cash flow.
Exactly.
Because if you start doing something on the 1st and then you invoice on the 30th and then you have to give 30 days term. So
you're
effectively
working for 2 months. Exactly.
for free, yeah.
And that's the main bit. But, and they said, well, yes, but it is the cash flow. But it's all those bits that go with it. And so they're saying, no, you need to invoice whatever you're doing, you need to invoice for that straight away. They'd set their systems up so it was easier to invoice anyway. So that kind of eliminated it. But sitting there explaining that why you invoice when you've done it rather than in retrospect.
Did they understand it
yes,
fully
absolutely.
in the end? And also, I mean, with new regulations coming in that you have to do all your tax online and what is it called? I can't remember now. But you have to do your self-assessment quarterly now from next year or something. Yeah, people will have to move over to the online system. But at the end of the day, any business account now comes with all of this built in.
Absolutely.
So it can be kind of done for you anyway.
Yeah. But it's the habit to get into, isn't it? That, at the end of the day, I invoice for the business I've done.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, I appreciate a lot of people are sometimes so worn out at the end of the day, but then you have to look at why are you so worn out.
Well, exactly, yeah, and manage your time. Well, manage yourself actually to make sure that you utilize your time well, and then actually time block that last 15 minutes of the day.
Absolutely,
to at least log what got done if it's the middle of a job, or indeed as you suggest, the invoice. But I'd love to recap this little bit. So for startup businesses, one of the most important things is to get an accountant.
Yeah.
Get tax support to sort out one's website and hosting and email and whatever comes with it to create the professional outlook for the company. And then get the admin support in as soon as possible.
Yeah, because otherwise you become a very expensive admin person. Because for all the time you're sitting there doing the admin, that's time away from your business.
So you mentioned a couple of times that from then on it becomes kind of business specific, but would there be anything else that's kind of overarching?
It's about then having the right people in the right places, doing the right job. So if you're going to employ, look at who are the key roles that you're going to employ, and you always start with what do I like doing. And what am I good at? Because you don't want somebody to go and do that because you're just employing another you. And we are attracted to people that are the same as us, because if you're talking to them, you're gonna resonate with them, and they're gonna be the right person. But they're not, because they're going to be doing what you can do best, right? So you think about, what do I do best? What is it? What am I good at? What are my strengths? That's what I'm going to focus on in my business. Yeah. And then, so then what do I find the most challenging? And that's then what you outsource. Now, again, you can see this is where it's business dependent. It's business owner dependent.
Yeah.
What am I going to then outsource? And that's what you go to outsource. And then it's about, I need to get the right person, because the right person is the person that fits the organisation and what you stand for as a business owner, etc. The ethos of the business.
I think a key word to sort of slot in here is values. So need to be really quite aware of my own company values to make sure that anyone who comes into the business, whether it's a subcontractor or an employed person, they need to live to the same values.
Absolutely. Because you can train people in whatever you need to train them in.
Yeah.
Within reason. I mean, but generally you can train them.
Let's go with then, yeah. You can teach somebody to use a word processor.
Yeah. Exactly. But it's about, you can't train their values. Their values are there. It's in them. Yeah. How personable they are, how they react, what's important to them is there with them. And that's what you need to look out for. Who fits the business? because then you can train them. And yes, you're going to have to spend some time training them, but in doing that, you're actually investing in your business. So the small amount of time, and it will be a small amount in comparison to the time that they're going to be with you, the small amount of time that you work with them and train them to how you want the business to be, how you want it to be, will be invaluable if they're the right person for the business. Does that make sense?
It does
It's
make
not
sense.
it's not about their knowledge or it's about the person.
I mean, the whole idea of recruiting anyone frightens me.
Yeah, and most people.
Yeah.
And most people just go for the knowledge, the experience, the skills. You know, they're an experienced, I don't know, salesperson. Therefore, I'll recruit them. But do they sell in the way that you want to sell?
Interestingly, a friend's husband a few years back told me, I think probably I was applying for a job, and he was saying how he does recruitment. That sort of checks the person meets. Actually, at that point, when he sees a CV, doesn't even check how they meet the job criteria. The very first thing he looks at, I think this is at the selection process, is the interest at the bottom.
Yeah.
Could I actually spend time in the same room with this person for any length of time? And if they said interest that were just really not resonating with him, he would discard that person.
Absolutely.
And then whoever would resonate with him, then he would look through, which is kind of, again, really quite subjective. But at the end of the day, we have to work together with people. Then they need to meet our values and then in our interests as well.
With the advancement of AI, which is advancing at a rapid speed all the time, from the skills and knowledge point of view, if you're applying for a job, you've literally only got to use AI and you can have all the skills and knowledge you want, can't you? And written in the right way.
But still, when you put down your personal interests.
But when it comes down to
values,
you, you are going to come across.
And that's also quite interesting when we talk about values is we've got like on one side what we would like to be.
Yeah.
And then on the other side what we actually are like.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what we actually do. And sometimes you need to dig a little bit deep to realize that it's not your dreams that you need to write down, but the reality. Or sometimes you kind of fool yourself a little bit from an entrepreneur's point of view. When recruiting, I don't know, the whole idea of sitting down with someone and interview them, I can't even imagine it kind of thing. How would I dig deep enough in that person to find out if we could work together?
So it's the questions you ask, and again, it's the coaching in a way of the person to actually reveal themselves to you for their personality and what sort of person they are, because like we said, you could write anything, and you can and it can be written in whatever way it needs to be written. That's how the world's moved on, but it's about then talking to that person to actually be able to understand, is this the real, the person on paper? Is this the person that I'm seeing in front of me?
It just takes me back to what I learned in a business course, that people buy from people.
Yes.
And there is all this fear-mongering that AI will replace people. It's not kind of going to replace people. It's just become an integral part of business.
Yes.
And those businesses that embrace it will do better.
Yes.
But we are still people.
With regard to AI, and with a husband who's really into AI, I've kind of got to know quite a bit about it. My take on it is it's there. We have to accept it. And like everything, and through the ages, everybody's had to accept things that they don't necessarily know, like, or understand. And if we hadn't have done this through the ages, we would still be cave people, wouldn't we?
Yeah.
Because
there is a reason that we evolved.
We've evolved. We've evolved because somebody has invented something, discovered something, whatever, and then this seems and it's caught on. Is what other people have adopted it.
Yeah, I think what's frightening about it all is at the speed it's developing.
Yes. Exponential. We can't keep up.
How can we possibly keep up with it at all? That is the frightening part.
I think the answer to that is don't try to keep up with it, keep up with everything, keep up with what's relevant and pertinent to your business.
That is really good advice. Because I think as humans, we tend to get overwhelmed on all sorts of things.
Yeah.
But yeah, so just pick the relevant parts, use the relevant parts, but do use it.
I'm going to give you an example.
Go on.
So I've just said my husband's he's really into IT. That was his background. He's really into AI. He's fascinated by it.
It's so funny to see a 60-something-year-old, like literally like a dog with a bone, isn't
Yes,
he?
absolutely,
so happy
absolutely.
learning
And if
about
you
it.
know, if any of you know him, and you see he does lots of posts on LinkedIn, that sort of thing, on with that using AI, and he absolutely adores it. I have accepted that that's that. Now I am not trying to compete with him. So if you see anything that I do, I'll use sort of like things to help me with what I'm writing and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But I am not as AI focused as he is. I'm not competing with him. I'm not trying to keep up with him. I'm looking at what will help me in my business and
Sounds
using
like
that.
you're a bit of an opposite
Yeah.
in that sense. But so especially now that he's completely gone down the path
Yes.
of AI
Yeah.
kind of coaching.
Yeah.
And you are very much the in-person
Yes.
coach.
So then what we do is we complement each other.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
people who are not into AI or whatever, or not so technically minded, will hopefully resonate more with me, who's just going to do as it is,
or can learn from him.
or can learn from him. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's, there's two things. I'm not going to try and keep up with him. I never will. So I accept that. And then how do I use it to help me in what I'm doing? And
Yeah.
that's the difference. So it's about
Brilliant.
how does it help you in your business?
I love that you are complementing each other
Yeah.
in your coaching. And can I just let the listeners know that at a later date, I will be interviewing Kevin as well, because they're two different people.
Yeah, very much so.
Coaching under the same. Are you coaching under the same umbrella? The
We come under the same company, Cora Connections, but very different.
You offer very different services, really, especially now that he's gone down the AI route.
Yeah.
So if anybody wants to know a lot more about AI style coaching, listen out to an upcoming episode later in the year with Kevin.
That's good, thank you. And again, we have to coach in a different way. I mean, we do anyway, because we're different people.
True.
And we attract different
fundamental
people.
basics.
Well, yes, and we attract different people,
Okay.
and that's good. That's a strength, not a negative.
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we kind of touched upon this a little bit earlier about the age differences
Yep.
and that we need polar opposites, and then you interact with youngsters still. So how do you balance your lifelong wisdom with the new tricks?
I think it's just just keeping up to date with what's going on. This is, again, like why I love going out networking, meeting people. I don't see networking as a job. I don't see that's work. For me, it's just something I like to do.
It's kind of part of
Yeah,
the work, isn't it?
It is work. It is part of work, but I don't see it in that way.
I must admit that in my little sort of daily routine tick sheet, I put it down as socializing.
Yeah.
But it is, isn't it?
It's because networking is all about building relationships.
Yeah.
Which then is socializing, because you're building those relationships. Technically, it's work because companies employ people to go and network. So if I was employed to do that, then it would be my job. It would be.
And the reason to do it is to get clients.
Of
course, at networking, they get to know you, get to trust you, and then they come on board with you as a coach.
Absolutely, yeah. From that point of view, it's kind of, I'm keeping up to date because I'm meeting people, and I'm meeting people of all ages, all experiences, all walks of life, and that in itself is an experience.
Yeah.
And we talk about things. Have you read this book? Have you come across this article and all that? Oh no, okay, that's something to do. So I'm keeping abreast of everything, things that are going on. I also belong to an organisation called Entrepreneurs Circle, which also keeps me abreast of new things and ways to do things, etc.
Is that your kind of way of continuous personal development as well?
Yes, absolutely. So because you need to be always learning. Every day is a school day, they say, and that's
Oh, I so agree.
Yeah,
with that.
but it's
I love
true.
cliches.
You have to be continually learning. for two things. I mean, if you have to do that when you're in business, because you've got to keep abreast of what's happening in business. Right. But the other thing is, I think that actually keeps your brain active, which keeps you younger, which keeps you able to do it.
Completely.
And I think as soon as you stop learning, as soon as you stop sort of coming across all these new things, I think that's when you start to deteriorate.
Yeah, I mean, you are kind of mid-60s.
Yeah.
Kind of retirement age.
Yep. Oh,
Are
yes.
you thinking of retirement?
No. So I mean, I am over retirement age. And all this. But so what's the definition of retirement? Because people ask me this all the time. What's the definition of retirement? Why do people want to retire? Normally it's they say what they want to do in retirement is they want to do what they want to do. They want to
rather than spend
9 to 5 working. Yeah. So they want to choose what they want to do, to be able to do the things they like. That's what I do. Right? So technically, I'm retired because my day consists.
Is it a hobby or is it because obviously you do it as a business?
Yeah.
So you earn money from it.
Yeah. So isn't that good that I actually earn money doing something that I like to do that gives me real satisfaction? So I earn money from being retired.
And why not?
So
that's a double goodness, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because I suppose the society rule is that you come out of school, you go to university, you get a job, you work until you're 65, 67, whatever it's going to be in the coming years. And then, retire to do what? To put around in the garden.
If you've got a lot of hobbies and a lot of active hobbies and that sort of thing, and I think for a lot of people that's that's what they want to do. I personally, my hobby is more like people. Is people. I don't really have a hobby that I can say, oh, I'm so passionate about doing that. I'm not a golfer. I'm not a golfer. I mean, I've played golf, but no, I've not. I've walked around a golf course and with some sticks. That's about it. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I can knit, but I wouldn't want to do. That's something that I do when I want to do. If I want to do, I can. I like walking, but that to me is then I do that when I want to do it. I do it on a regular basis because I want to do it. But my life consists of all of these things. I can do what I want to do when I want to do it.
Awesome.
And yet I still earn money.
Isn't it,
yeah,
though?
and yet I earn money from doing what I want to do, what I enjoy doing. So isn't that what people aspire to do?
Yeah.
So retirement. It's what you do, what you think of as retirement, isn't it? Do you think of retirement as giving up, or is it doing the things that you want to do?
I think you put it really well with that. That I think there's a sort of society understanding of retirement is you give up work, and you become time free.
Yeah.
But is that time freedom enough? Does it keep you stimulated? I mean, my in-laws, my goodness, they are pushing 80.
Yeah.
And they play tennis 3 times a week. They do that stupendously complicated Sudoku just literally to keep their mind fresh.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think your in-laws don't just play tennis. They actually are something to do with the organisation. Is that right? Sort of running
probably.
It?
Yeah, absolutely. My father-in-law tried to retire from being the chair of the board, and then he just keeps going back. And
there you go.
Yeah, they do get involved with the
so it's
running of the club as well. Absolutely. It's
so they're
being active socially, physically, mentally, absolutely everything.
Yes. Yeah. So it's not just the playing of the tennis or whatever. Being on the board, being the chair or whatever, there's all things that are going on mentally there, mentally stimulating.
Absolutely. They just can't just sit at home and do nothing.
No. And of course, they're also talking to all different people because there'll be all different people who are part of the tennis club, all different people on the board.
Yes.
And that's keeping them current.
And young and fit and fresh and healthy. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It kind of leads me a little bit onto, my offering, my thing is routine.
Yeah.
Is to help people with their health routine.
Yeah.
Do you have a particular health routine?
Not as much as I should have.
Maybe you need to come to me.
I do. We do a lot of walking. We do a daily walk of some sort, always.
A beautiful part of the country we live in, don't we? Down the southwest, where you can do a lot of that.
Once a week routine through that's with a trainer. Which is, I must admit, when I first come across it, I was very cynical that once a week would be enough, but once a week has really helped.
Is it a physical help, like exercises and stuff, or what do you do?
Well, it's something called Fit 20. So here I am advertising them, but so go for 20 minutes a week into have a personal trainer, and there's exercises. You do 5 exercises with machines, etc. And you only have to go once a week. Now, I was the most cynical person about this. How can you only, so was Kevin, how can you only exercise for 20 minutes a week and it helps you? What it actually does is it builds your core, and it builds your, it does things with your muscles and your endorphins, all that sort of thing. That actually, it's proven that when doing this, it then accelerates something I do. And then so it lasts for a week, and you have to do it every week, which we've noticed that if we don't do it every week, it makes a difference. But it's actually improved our core, it's improved our strength, it's improved our whole physical being, it's improved we're nowhere near as tired, we can do so much more, we've got so much more energy. And for Kevin in particular, so this doesn't happen for everyone. He's actually lost some weight, and it's actually improved his physical stance, as in sort of like
the way he holds himself.
The whole lot. Yeah.
That's brilliant. Is it like the time of it? Is it age specific, or literally they say the same to a 20-year-old?
Yep. It does tend to be older people, but that's more from the fact that the older you get, the harder it is, I think, to do daily exercise. And from my point of view, I've always hated going to the gym, because there's normally people now are always younger than me, fitter than me. I've got to do it for so long. I've got to be there at the gym for an hour or whatever, doing all these different things. I find it very boring. 20 minutes I can just about do.
Is it something that you do in a gym?
It's a particular, there's a particular area, a room, a shop, an area
specifically set up for this anyway.
Yeah.
It's not
and it's people who are trained in this, who are PTs and that sort of thing, but they are trained in what they have to do.
Okay.
And but for us, it works.
I'm
not saying it works for everyone, but that's the same with everything, isn't it? You'll have people saying, "Oh, I really believe in this. I really believe in that."
You find, indeed, I mean,
it's your own personal choice.
You're dieting all my life, and now found 5 years ago a really good way of managing my nutritional intake, like the exercise. Same, I do 20 minutes in the morning, and I vary it. But I can do it in the morning, but I can't really imagine going to the gym after work, sort of thing.
No, the interesting thing is you don't even break out sweat, so which is great, because I hate that. I hate being hot and sweaty myself, and I hate being around people who are hot and sweaty as well. So going to the gym for me, where you've got music pumping out, hot and sweaty people who are kind of half, if not a quarter of my age, etc.
I hate the air conditioning.
Exactly. There's not even air conditioning. Sort of, and all of this, to me, it's like one of my worst places. I've belonged to many gyms over the years, and I've never been able to last longer than a month. After a month, that's it. I've had enough. I've been doing this for coming up for a year now. So that in itself to me says, well, the fact I still go.
Proven itself to you.
Yeah.
Well, that's really fantastic.
So interesting. So yes, I do something.
You look after your physical health really quite well.
We're quite careful in what we eat. We are very quite careful. It's a balanced, nutritious diet, and we are conscious of what we eat, but not
regimented.
No, not regimented. Not extreme or anything like that.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
You obviously already talked about earlier about managing your intellectual health. So you're you very much embrace
Yeah.
daily learning.
Yeah.
What do you do about your mental health and spiritual health?
Mental health, it really and truly what helps us is where we live. And you know where we
Yeah.
live. You know, to go out and do that. We live by the sea. It's a 10-minute walk to the sea. And that helps our mental health very much, very much. We have to be able to see the outside. We have to be able to go out in the fresh air.
Yes.
You know that. And
absolutely.
and
yeah.
living where we live has really, really helps our mental health. It
Yeah,
really
that's our next
does.
target, that we want to move.
Yeah.
And I certainly want to move somewhere with a view, any kind of view.
Yeah.
Ideally water, but just a view.
Yeah.
Because, that's just, seeing nature
Yeah.
is indeed,
Yeah.
does
and
wonders to the spirit.
Yeah. And it helped. I mean, we moved to the area we live in 11 years ago from just outside London, which is, I come from London, so just outside. And just moving into the area helped our mental health. 2.5 years ago, we then moved to have the sea view, to be right by the sea. And that's improved it even more. So, and the reason we did that was because we knew exactly where we wanted to move to. And it was to actually not just improve it, but to maintain it as we get older, because we were very conscious that we're all getting older, aren't we? But as we get into an age where maybe we are not as active as we would like to be, we need to be able to have a view or something that's actually going to keep our mental health.
Compensates
Good.
you.
Yeah.
Because you certainly don't have to go far.
No.
Because, should you lose some level of mobility, then walking around in your garden or in the street, you've got quite a level street, is...
Yeah. And just sitting out in our conservatory helps your mental health. Yeah. And we were very conscious of that. And again, this comes back to your business as well. It's about protecting yourself and it's about protecting your business, isn't it?
Is there something you touch upon with your mentees to actually look at how they look after themselves in order to manage their business better?
Yes. We normally do it through the hours they're working, what they're doing. Is a common question is, are you the best person to do this? What time how much sleep are you getting? Where's the work-life balance? And if they say to me, "Oh, I'm going to have to take a week off," good. That's what you should be doing. That's as opposed to actually make them understand that that's more important really than anything else. Yeah, absolutely. And so looking at the future. So you're not going to be doing this forever. What are you going to be doing to make this business work without you? Because that's the ultimate, isn't it? To still have the business that works without you. Yes,
that's what we need to work our way up to. Absolutely.
Yeah. Which is Kevin's whole thing with AI coaches.
To replace you. The key outcome is to lead people to manage their business in such a way that they are not needed in it. And Kevin going down the AI route. Still, would you consider setting up another business?
Yes, if it was the right business.
And would you have any ideas? What could be a right business for you at an even later stage in your life?
It's got to be a business where there's input from us from the higher level, where we're not working in the business, we're working on the business more and more. That's what it's about. So I have a mantra that says, never say no.
Yeah.
Sort of look at it, consider it. It's not no, what's the question? It's let me think about that. And I've actually that goes right back from being a child.
Okay.
In the fact that my dad wanted a son. It was dominated by women in his life. I'm an only child. He actually thought he couldn't be a father because he was a prisoner of war in the Second World War.
Okay.
And he was told in Japan, and he was told that he would never father children because of what he'd been through. And he was and he met my mum, married my mum, but they always believed he couldn't father children because of what he'd been through. And he was 40 when I was born.
Okay.
So I was quite a shock. They'd been married for 7 years, and it was quite a shock that they were having me. I mean, unlike most men of his generation where, you know, women's work, women's places in the home and all that, he encouraged me to do whatever I wanted to do from day one. And I can remember, like, as a small child, because we were going to help him, you know, fix the car and all this sort of thing.
That's brilliant. Yeah.
Whatever I wanted to do, he would encourage me to do it. It wasn't, you know, there wasn't a lot of money about, but it was if there was some way he could do it, I could do it. I would do it. There was never any question about whether I would learn to drive. It was just I would learn to drive. There was never any question about would I be able to swim. I would just, you know, he threw me in the swimming pool. Therefore, I had to learn to swim.
Do you recall?
That sort of attitude, right? So you get on and do it, right? These are life skills, and encouraged me in everything. So I'd always been brought up to, you know, embrace everything, assess, you know, look to and have a go.
Yeah.
Don't say no. Just look at it and have a go. Which is interesting because then kind of like I didn't really pursue that in my career because I'd always wanted to be a teacher, and that's what I became.
Yeah, but then you did what you wanted to do.
Yeah, but I did what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I never sort of like explored it as much as other things until obviously I was in a situation where I had to support somebody else, which is, you know, the whole thing I said right in the back in the beginning. And then it was like, well, you know, so what's stopping us?
Absolutely.
But when I look back in my life, I have done things where it's kind of like, well, what's stopping me? Oh, I can do it. And if I've come up with a reason what's stopping me, then I've not done it. And one of the things is that, you know, there was a time in our life together that we thought about emigrating, Kevin and I.
Okay,
a couple of times. So Kevin was working in the US for a time and sort of commuting back because when he would go over like 6 weeks at a time, and he was offered a job in the US. And we thought about it long and hard. But at the time our daughters were young, being an only child, I had aging parents, and Kevin's parents were still alive. But it was more about the fact of having aging parents and young children who were obviously their only grandchildren and that sort of thing.
Yes.
And it was like, and then also I wouldn't be able to teach over there. You know, what would I do? I'd have to requalify, etc. So we didn't do it.
Yeah. Too many things against.
Too many
the
things.
idea,
It was. We considered it, and we considered it long and hard. We did the same thing about emigrating to New Zealand because we love New Zealand. But at the time, again, I still had my mother alive and Kevin's parents even older this time. And it's just like, and then actually when we assessed it, we were probably a bit too old as well. But anyway, yeah, it was just like, what are we leaving behind?
Yeah.
Again, you can see considering other people, you know, and that sort of thing. People. But there were lots of things, and there's opportunities that we've had in life where we've considered them and not made, you know, not gone with them, and maybe that wasn't the right choice, but it was the choice at the time. But I'm pretty
sure that there have been opportunities that you've gone with.
Absolutely, yeah, and going into property is one of them.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a big gamble. No money. What, you know? How are we going to do this? But you know, there's an opportunity. We've been given an opportunity. What have we got to lose? Let's go for it. And here we are 12 years on, you know, with a portfolio of properties, a lifestyle that we like, you know, that we want, and going into also to enabling us to do a job, to do, I don't want to call it a job, I don't like to call it work, to do things to enable others.
And yourself.
And ourselves, yeah.
So what a lovely thing to end on is to encourage ourselves and everybody around us to take opportunities. Absolutely. Especially when it's the right thing to do, but at least consider opportunities and embrace them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Just always consider it. Is this the right thing for me? What am I feeling? What is this? If it's not, that's fine. But never look back and regret because you made the decision at that time for what was
Yeah.
given to you.
My view on that is that you can only regret things you haven't done.
Yeah.
Everything else is an experience, a learning curve.
Yeah.
Just something. You can only regret things you haven't done.
Yeah. Kevin's got a great saying here, which kind of spurs us on in lots of things that we do, especially about things, places we go and things we do when we go to those places. He said he's read somewhere where you should not die with your dreams intact. In other words, you're not dying thinking about all the things you would have liked to have done.
Yeah, absolutely. People who are listening to our conversation and perhaps considering setting up a coaching business or a mentoring business or a training business similar to yours, what kind of books would you recommend?
Motivational books that help you. So, anything that's helped you in what you've done in your life, in your business, right? So actually them.
But would you be able to pick out one or two?
Okay, so
which are the books that you recommend to your mentees?
So one thing, Eat That Frog is one of the things where that's all a book about. Don't ask me of the authors. I never know the authors. Brian somebody or other. Yeah, that's all about doing the things that you find difficult first, or and eat the biggest frog first, because we all need to get out of our comfort zone. And if we don't get out of your comfort zone never grows. If you get out of your comfort zone grows.
Yeah.
You become.
Well, the way I see that one is get the worst task out of the day, and then everything else is a breeze.
Yes, exactly. And I'm going to add to that, know yourself. So know which is a good time for you to do those difficult things, or what's a bad or what's not a good time. So if you're better first thing in the morning, get those difficult things out of the way, right? If you're better later on in the day, do those difficult things then. Do things before you have to do these difficult things that give you energy, that you like doing. So you're energized to then do those difficult things. And then do something that energizes you afterwards. So you've kind of got that incentive that when I've got this done, I can then go on and do something.
Yeah.
So you're kind of giving yourselves a little
energy sandwich by the sound of it.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's one. Will It Make the Boat Go Faster? By Ben Hunt Davis, I think it is. All about the British rowing team, what they did.
You recommended that to me, and I did listen. And I must admit, it ended the way I did not expect it to end. And I'm going to leave it there.
Yeah, okay.
Because it was a great surprise.
Atomic Habits is one that I've just...
Habits is
which is the
right
same sort of... Yeah. So Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Because that gives you a completely different way of looking at money, assets, good debt, bad debt, that sort of thing, and that helps you in your business.
That book is like an absolute baseline business education book.
Yes.
But what was even more eye-opening for me is his next one, the Cash Flow Quadrant.
Cash flow, yeah.
That was like a proper light bulb moment after light bulb moment, jaw dropping on the floor. Really, really eye-opening.
Yeah.
Of how the world goes round in money circles kind of thing, or like once you are out of corporate, or how do you get yourself out of there?
Absolutely,
Yeah. It is incredibly educational.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you for the recommendations. They are really valuable.
You're welcome.
And the last question I have for you is, can you think of anybody else who started a new business in later life, over the age of 50, who you would like to see in the hot seat for this podcast?
Oh, good question. Apart from my husband.
I was thinking you already mentioned one, which is your husband, but if you can think of anybody else, I welcome the suggestion.
Oh, yes. So it's someone that you don't know.
I was going to say, it doesn't have to be from our network, obviously. It could be international even.
I've got a couple of people. I've got... they're both property orientated, because obviously that's one. So I've got Bernadette Lloyd.
Okay.
The property business. And I've also got Joanne Sainsbury, who also does a property business. So I can put you in contact.
If you could link me up with those ladies, I would very much appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you very much. Well, Sally, that kind of brings our interview to a close. Thank you ever so much for
Thank
coming
you. I've
along
enjoyed
and
it.
sharing all your experiences and insights and advice with us. It's been really quite valuable.
Thank you.
Thank you very
See you
much.
soon.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
If Sally's story resonated with you, please don't sit in uncertainty. Just reach out to her. She's only a call away from helping you find your next step or even a sea breeze in your life. If you would like to know more about overall health routine, because a healthier you makes a wealthier you, please get in touch with me. All of our contact details are in the show notes. On that note, thank you for tuning into New Business in Later Life, and see you next week.